Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Die. It's Francis, and today I have with me Steve Beynon. Steve is a National Guardsman, Cav Scout, asterisk, and Army reporter from military.com. Steve, how are you doing today?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
I'm excited to have somebody from military.com on because that is my favorite place to troll for comments. It used to be, at least.
Yeah, so famously, this has been brought up a lot. We notoriously had a very rough comment section, lots of conspiracy theories, Cold Warriors on there. And we had a new editor kind of take the reins a month ago, and the decision was made to completely remove the comment section to kind of get rid of some of that toxicity.
That is, that is a very smart move to do.
Yeah.
However, my podcast content side is like, damn it, because it was like, it seems like every military website has like its dedicated group of weirdos. Like military.com, as you said, is like, it felt like everybody was just like, well, I fought in the Cold War, I was in Vietnam. Like they're all old guys. And then Task and Purpose is a little bit of a younger crowd, like maybe like our age, our generation, kind of the 30s and whatnot. I don't know who's going to be the military website for all the Zoomers that are coming out, but we'll see. I'm sure that it'll be full of TikTok videos and flossing or whatever the hell the kids are doing.
Yeah, there's probably some like Gen Z TikTok military influencer that we're just both way too old to understand, and then they see like reporting I put out, and I'm just like a boomer to them.
Yeah, I always try to pride myself on keeping up with things. I'm tech minded. I work in IT, and I do keep up with things in that regard, and I do keep up with things that are on Twitter. But like all the other stuff, like it's not so much that like, oh, it's passing me all by. Like I'm so old. It's like I just don't give a shit. And it's a beautiful thing when you hit that age of just not giving a shit anymore about what else is going on other than like, what, like not like, oh, I don't give a shit about Ukraine or anything, but I don't give a shit about like, I don't know who most like TikTok stars, dudes with 7 million, 8 million followers, and it's like, it's a TikTok person, okay? Like I haven't even got my wife is more into watching Instagram reels, and I'm just like, stop sending me videos, please. I don't want to watch videos.
Yeah, and like, when's the last time you read a comment on the internet and was just like, thank God I read that? My day's better now. Better person.
Careful, that's like my entire Twitter persona is making people think that what I have to say is worthwhile.
Fair.
All right, so Steve, we brought you on talk about a couple things, and we'll see what we end up talking about all together. But mostly, I wanted to kind of encircle this this happening that's been going on down on the Texas border with National Guard troops. Now, I have talked with Davis. Davis Winky. I've talked with a couple of other people who, National Guardsmen who have been down there. People have been writing about just the absolutely fucked conditions that are down there for the military specifically, like, and how nobody wants to be there. The Border Patrol doesn't want them there. Like, it's just because because they're there to say, look, we have the military on the border, but they're not actually fucking doing anything. So what I have from you on military.com, meet the soldier working to unionize Texas guardsmen among troubled border mission. And that is every part of that is just like it gives me like warm fuzzies, but also it sets off a million alarm bells about like how quickly something like this is going to get shut down. And I want to talk about this because there's obviously we're a left-leaning podcast, and we're very strong on unions and definitely strong on the troop, even if we don't like the military. So how does this work? Like, because I as a federal reservist was not able to do to form a union. So what's this guy got going on here?
Yeah, so there's just a lot of things going on at once with this. So the first thing to keep in mind is and I talked to a couple of AG, so commanders of different National Guards in 4 different states at this point. And the vibe they're getting is and the vibes for some kind of experts in the union space and stuff I've been talking to is we don't know if this is going to work in the long term, but just the idea of soldiers unionizing, them getting on to the Texas State Employers Union, um, is such a signal of how botched this mission is for personnel. I write about soldiers for a living. I talk to soldiers every day. Soldiers complaining about a mission, that is not news. But
Yeah,
it,
that's
yeah,
that is the moment that a
mhm.
soldier's like, I have to go out in the field, you're immediately complaining.
Well,
But
yeah, and the whole famous line is like, "Hey, if they're not complaining, that's when something's seriously wrong." And myself
we
and
managed to hit that.
and myself and I'm sure I can speak for my colleagues at other outlets, including Davis at Military Times, who's done some good work on this. Is we're not. I, I mean, I'm not publishing stories of just one or two Joes complaining. This border mission, it's not just me, it's not just Davis, or not just the New York Times. Is these soldiers have poured to every news outlet, all their grievances. It's from the ranks of PFC to very high up in the chain of command there, uh, all with receipts, documentation about just poor treatment, poor housing conditions they've had. They've had multiple suicides on the mission. The mission's unclear. The big takeaway is these soldiers all have civilian jobs. They were taken away from that. Again, that's not new. National Guardsmen have an obligation to serve their states when they're deployed. Everyone signs up knowing that. But it's different when it's on involuntary and they're not seeing the mission having a purpose. I think everyone wants to have a purpose when they enlist in the military, but they're just sitting on the border, not doing anything but playing spades and drinking. And so they're wondering why they're making less money than they were at their civilian jobs, losing out on their homes, getting their civilian careers kneecapped. And it's not even for a greater good or service to country as we would see on maybe other missions.
Yeah, this is moving chess pieces around to make everything look good, but not actually, doing anything. And that's, as you mentioned, we talked to Davis Winky, and we also got a hold of a copy of the manifesto that was spread around down there, and we read that on I think we read that on one of the bonus episodes. And that's, it, as you said, it is normal for soldiers to complain, but
Yes.
like in general, like everybody has a job.
Yeah.
Like I go out into the field, I have a job. And even if I don't have a specific job as PAO, I have a job as when I was I was a staff sergeant. I have a job as, partially training NCO. I have a job partially as, just helping, just, a utility NCO that can be plugged in anywhere and can do whatever needs to be done. And we can, move on with the mission. And even if the mission is just, we're sitting out here and we're seeing how far, PFC Johnny over here can chuck a rock into the woods. That's fine. We all have a job to do, though. But when you take away that job, the term idle hands become the devil's plaything really ramps up, especially in the military, because like I don't know what it is about putting the uniform on, but like every time I put especially younger, especially like my first 10 years in the military, I put the uniform on, I immediately wanted to go like smoke and drink and carouse. And yeah, I don't know what it is. That uniform is just powerful, and it made me want to go do dumb soldier shit.
Yeah.
So when you have a bunch of
You want
soldiers
to dip
down
and
there,
play spades.
man, I never knew that spades could be violent until I
Yeah.
joined the military.
Yeah.
And not even fighting, like just the act of playing the game gets violent.
Yeah, yeah, and the key here is like on every installation, on every other military mission going on, I have soldiers talk to me about what's going on. Everyone's got a grievance, and kind of going back to my original point, what stood out is, I mean, I can't speak for every reporter in the business, but I don't have 90 soldiers emailing, DMing me, texting me. That is abnormal in a short amount of time, all errands, similar grievances. I don't think any reporter has their phone blown up on the same mission like that. That just and you didn't hear about the stuff like the pandemic mission's a great example when basically an entire National Guard was involuntarily mobilized when the pandemic started. You didn't hear any complaints about that, and I'm sure a lot of them did lose, maybe make a little less money than they were on their civilian jobs. But that was a real mission, and where they were helping out their neighbors. You don't hear about this when they respond to domestic disturbances. You don't really hear about this for foreign deployments to places
and
in
and
Africa or the Middle East.
And if I'm not mistaken, all the National Guardsmen down there aren't even from Texas. Like they're just kind of piecemeal grabbed and shoved down there to be set pieces.
Yeah.
So not only do you have no mission, but you have people who's not even like, like you join the National Guard. I want to be there for my state. Like in Missouri, I love the Missouri National Guard. They're always there because there's always flooding. They always mobilize the Missouri National Guard to go chuck sandbags around. National Guardsmen are fantastic for that. Perfect sandbag makers. I've discovered that in Afghanistan as well.
Yeah.
So but that's a real, like you said, it's a real mission. It's a real thing that we're doing. And even if like, yes, it sucks, but you can at least like this the thing the military does kind of give you a little bit is a little bit of pride in the mission. Just be like, look, maybe I didn't make as much money. Maybe I didn't, this 4 months or so, I made less money than I would have, or maybe I've got to work a little harder to catch up with the civilian job. But like also, I've got stories, I've got shit that I did, I've got like nobody's got stories like troops, man. Like no person who's like been working in tax administration for the last 15 years has stories like soldiers do. Not even deployments, just like we get the fucked up things that soldiers do just in general, just like the lives of soldiers of running around on field missions and doing operations and stuff like that. So there is something to it. You get something else out of it if it's not necessarily a financial or monetarily kind of thing. You do get like experiences. You get things like, and I feel like that is one of the selling points. It's always been one of the selling points. That's why, once upon a time, Marines were fighting giant lava monsters with their swords or whatever. It's all about the experiences and and what you get out of it. And that border mission just does not have that.
Yeah, and I think the real key here, and I got to get a little bit wonky here, but bear with me, is how they're being paid. Like when the National Guard can be activated on a couple of different ways, and this gets, I'm gonna try to make this not boring. There's oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, as a reservist, I probably know some of the tricks, and I have railed against them as well. So I will attempt to clarify as well if there's as you go. But I'm with you. Go ahead.
Correct. So there's Title 10, which is normal federal activation that is usually used to send soldiers abroad to Iraq, Afghanistan, Europe. Now that's when they're completely under the command and control of the president. There's Title 32, which is also kind of federal activation, but they're still under command and control of the governor. If the president declares a national emergency under those orders, they are entitled to full benefits, GI Bill, the full housing allowance, VA home loan eligibility. They get all the goodies, and they can file for VA disability if they're injured. The problem is this is a state active duty mission, which is appropriately the acronym is SAD. This is when the soldiers are only under the command and control of the governor, and they're paid by the state, which is a little lower than active duty. Their housing allowance is either non-existent or lower. They get absolutely no benefits, no GI Bill. They don't build up retirement points or VA home loan. They can't even claim disability with the VA if they're injured on this mission. Could you imagine you're potentially coming face to face with cartels or a scared migrant or cartel person hits you with a rock and you get a head injury? You can't claim disability on that. So these soldiers are making basically minimum wage. They sign they fill out a new W-4 form on SAD missions. They're not even in the Army anymore, really. They're just basically contractor labor for the state, and that's the issue here. So they're just getting this crap minimum wage pay, and they're not even getting the benefits. Because I feel like part of joining the military is you kind of agree, like, hey, I might not get paid, like the check might not be the sexiest thing in the world, but I'm getting a scholarship, I'm getting health care, I'm building a retirement, I'm getting this goodie bag, right? But they're not getting that. And I think that's part of their grievances. SAT orders are not built to be long term, they're built to be short term. The governor's like, hey, I need 100 soldiers to clear snow because the highways are screwed up. I need soldiers to be civil, disturbance response at the state capitol for a protest for a weekend. It's built for stuff like that. It's not built for year-long deployments. And to kind of add insult to injury, there is a federal border mission right now of 2,000 guardsmen that was authorized by the White House. So there's guardsmen performing the same mission as a lot of these Texas guardsmen, about 10,000 of them, right? The 10,000 are on state orders, 2,000 are on federal orders. But the federal guys are doing the same mission. They're National Guardsmen, and they're getting paid more, and they're earning college degree or college scholarships, VA home loans, and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's I had no idea that everything was kind of cut off. Like I know that like guardsmen are that half and half where it's like you can be federalized. Like guardsmen go to all the federal basic trainings and AIT things and everything like that.
Yeah.
But also you guys have like your own ribbons, which is very strange. When you're trying to read somebody's rags, like I have no idea what any of these things are.
Dude, I have the most like mediocre military career, but like if I wore all my federal ribbons and state ribbons, dude, I'd look like a third world dictator. It's ridiculous. I got like 8 stacks. It's embarrassing.
God damn. Yeah.
Like, but yeah, so these soldiers they're looking at this, right? And it's involuntary, and this was kind of stymied by a Justice Department decision that came out in January, right? They found from a Connecticut complaint, right? These labor unions in Connecticut filed a complaint that were basic that complaint basically said this came from other public sector unions like cops, firefighters, and they said, "Hey, we worked with the Guard throughout this pandemic, right? But we see that they can't organize and advocate for themselves. That's kind of screwed up." And the Justice Department looked at that Connecticut complaint and they said, "You know what? You're right." And they looked at the federal law that came out in the 70s and they said, "Hey, the fine print on this federal law says nothing about state orders at all." And mind you, and remember when I said when they go on state orders, they fill out a new W-4 form. They are state labor. They are not soldiers, if you want to get real technical with it. And so that federal prohibition against unionization of guardsmen does not apply to them. And that, or at least that's what the Justice Department says for now.
So that's how they're managing to get around technically what you're doing is illegal, but not technically for them. As somebody who has a lawyer on the show quite often, I do appreciate the workaround there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then some experts I talk to, they say like, "Hey, these guardsmen are going to have to walk a tightrope because when they're not on this mission for when they're drilling normally, that's a Title 32 status. They're being paid by the federal government. That's the normal 1 week in a month thing we associate with the Guard. They cannot operate as a union during those normal drills when they go to schools and stuff like that. So they have to be really careful because some legal experts I talk to does say this kind of puts them in a frankly in a legal minefield, and it's unprecedented union law right now.
Yeah, that is definitely the towing the line of the federal line, because I have in the past recorded this podcast during my lunch hour on drill weekends, which is technically against UCMJ. I've been out of the Army for 20 years or for like a year and a half at this point, so come get me, motherfuckers. But the juxtaposition of like of what is when you're state and when you're federal, and then when you're doing this you're federal, when you're doing that you're state. So when you're on federal orders you can't like answer your unionized emails or whatever. So do they have a union now? Like have they joined a union? Where are they at? Well, I guess before we do that, tell me about Hunter Schuler, the guy who's leading this unionization effort.
Yeah, so as a good reporter, I try to be disconnected or kind of detached from my stories and not get giddy over certain things. But I really really appreciated that it was an E4 running the show. Just objectively, it makes the story way better.
It had to be. Like I have read like all of the. I want to go and like start up a Vietnam era zine with this guy. Like just because every person that has really stuck it to the military has been like an E5 and below.
Yeah, like I told him, like, hey man, like in a couple months, assuming like they don't find a way to throw you in a cage, like the E4s across the world are probably going to build statues of you. So yeah, so Hunter, he's been in the Guard for about 10 years. He is probably looking to get out of the guard relatively soon. He's a super smart guy. He works as a deputy clerk at the Texas Supreme Court. He just applied to a statistics PhD program. So, like, not only is he the godfather of E4 Mafia, he's probably the godfather because he can also read, which is very helpful.
And he knows law. That's dangerous.
And he knows
Like,
law. And yeah,
like not just barracks law. He knows real law.
yeah, he knows law. He can read. He knows math. He's a medic too. So like, and you know, you got to treat your medics good.
And he does logistics of some kind, so he can count too.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
big.
He's probably a counter. So yeah, I mean, he told
This guy
me
can
that.
make a good lieutenant.
Yeah, he told me like basically this started off as a joke. The way he explained it to me, I mean, he's probably walking around with some soldiers. You know, they make the same joke every E4 makes is we should unionize, and that just kind of snowballed, especially after the Justice Department decision. He frankly he told me he got fed up with the Texas Guard leadership not taking their grievances seriously. Called up the Texas State Employers Union, which is a union of thousands of people in the public sector in Texas. This could include state legislator staffers or you know, people that work in the schools or counties or anything like that. Texas laws do really curtail unions' ability to collectively bargain or strike. We'll get to that in a second with the Texas Guard's reaction. So he has the same grievances, you know, that you've talked about on the show before, and other reporters have talked about. And I wanted to read you a quote that I think summarizes up the whole problem. This came from Colonel Rita Holton, who is a spokeswoman for the Texas National Guard. I interviewed her about just all this stuff that's going on, right? And I brought up the suicide problem. There's been at least 4 reported suicides on the border mission, right? And I asked her about that, and normally, when a reporter asks about suicide, that's a really good opportunity for a spokesperson to say they take it seriously. Here's the mental health resources we're deploying, yada
Yeah,
yada yada. Right?
I'm PAO. I know that.
Yeah.
I know
So
them responses.
yeah, there's a human being reaction to it. She told me, I'm just going to read this quote. She said, "Suicides are among the nation have risen. We are part of the general population. We've had We've had suicides in our organization. There are suicides in every organization. Unless the individual left a note that says, I'm going to kill myself because I'm serving on this mission, there's no way anyone can say it's due to the service on this mission."
Oh no, that's a colonel said that, like a full bird.
Full Colonel Rita Holton, who's the spokesperson for the Texas National Guard. And
Holy
I
shit.
and I want to stress, like, I don't do gotcha journalism. I mean, anyone who, I mean, I'm sure you know this. When you write things down, people say it can come across as way worse than intended. Sometimes people speak off the cuff, and or they can't articulate very well, and that stuff, like, I take very seriously when I'm quoting people. Did you mean to say it like this, right? Is my quote capturing your overall point and your vibe, right? Like, that's something
Yeah.
reporters have to take super seriously. If I interview someone, I'm not just gonna take a quote that makes them look like an asshole and put it up and play gotcha. I don't do that. I re-asked this question 2 more times, and she told me basically the same thing in a very agitated tone. It was a very combative interview, and frankly, that meets the whole attitude towards soldiers on this mission. I've talked to other leaders. I talked to General Eris, who's the commander down there. I talked to him about pay issues, and he just said every soldier or a lot of soldiers lose pay on missions. Like he didn't even give me the spin on, like, hey, they're trying to serve and we try to make things work. He just said, yeah, that happens, right? So there just hasn't been a regard for personnel on this mission, or at least I haven't seen any evidence of that.
That is insane to me. That is insane to me that the PAO, basically the spokesperson, would put something like that out as like a normal thing to say to a human being. Like, and like this, I have watched the Army in my 20 years that I was in go from what it was in 2000 to what it was in 2020. And there were improvements along the way. Obviously, lots more improvements. Obviously, lots of things that they're still doing really wrong. And, you know, there's a whole war going on that shouldn't have been happening during that time, too. but like that extreme callousness is something that like I know the military has tried to root out, and like there is a certain callousness that you expect out of an officer, right? Like, you all need to shut up and do your jobs, and I can understand that if I have a fucking job. Like, I can understand, like, yeah, you're tired. Guess what? I'm tired too. We're all tired. We're all sucking shit. We all hate everything out here. It sucks ass, but it's a job that needs to get done. And instead, you just have like these people who are leaders, like, I mean, like, I would, I was like, oh, that's what you need. Let me write a suicide note just so I can go tell you to go fuck yourself. Like, let everybody know, like, hey guys, if you're going to commit suicide, specifically write it down that it's because of this.
It was a baffling statement, and like I said, like, that is not a got you quote. That is that she basically repeated that same statement several times, and that did go with the situation, because they basically try to say those suicides are not related at all to the mission, which is it's frankly bullshit. All those soldiers were on the mission or about to be on the mission, and frankly, they know that. And part of the struggle these soldiers have faced is it's not just going on this involuntary mission. A lot of these soldiers are activated in 3 to 4 days. These soldiers have jobs. The National Guard doesn't provide childcare. It's like, what do you do? And and you're not getting rapidly deployed. This isn't Ukraine. You're not getting rapidly deployed to fight an invader. You're getting rapidly deployed to go on a mission that frankly has been going on for decades. And Governor Abbott just decided exactly a year before his primary was going to be the biggest thing ever.
I'm surprised he hasn't sent out the what is it, the reserve Texas Guard to go watch the other guys to make sure that. Isn't that what he did for Jade Helm? Go send out the Texas militia dudes to go keep an eye on his army. It's I mean, every politician is a mutant in their own way, but like I firmly believe that I don't know if you saw the report that pretty much like half of America had their IQ stunted by lead poisoning because of lead gas. So that is starting to make a lot of things make a lot more sense.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
So where's Hunter Schuler at now with where's all of this now? So it went from a joke, and then how does it kind of snowball from there?
Yeah, so him and a handful of other enlisted and a couple of officers, mind you, union organizers, when I wrote the story, didn't want to tell me their numbers on the record, but I can say there's definitely a handful. So right now, they're just kind of bolstering their ranks, kind of making the sales pitch to other soldiers that are on the mission that are understandably extremely skeptical because this has never happened before. They don't know if they can get in trouble. Um, and then kind of going from there and building kind of long-term and short-term goals. Some of those short-term goals, he says, is just building a cordial relationship with Texas Guard leadership. And then that could lead to long-term goals such as maybe advocating for legislation. He kind of gave me one kind of shoot from the hip example of, hey, what if there was a bill in the Texas legislature that, hey, if the governor wants to do an involuntary state mission, if it lasts more than 30 days, he has to get the consent of the legislator. So stuff like that. But I think in the meantime, I think they want an opportunity to just sit at the table with Guard leadership, with the governor's office, and just air their grievances, because so far the only way they've had to do it is going to Reddit and people like me. I don't think leadership has heard from these soldiers. If they have, they haven't shown any evidence they care. If you just look at all the messaging from the Texas Guard's Twitter accounts, it's all praising General Norris. It's not necessarily praising the soldiers. If you look at Governor Abbott put a video out just kind of talking about what he sees as a very successful mission. At no point references some of these issues, which this is the biggest scandal in the military going on at the moment, or at least it's definitely up there. Uh, I think to not even have a line in his video talking about how awesome this border mission is, to just say, and we've heard some of your issues. We're deploying these mental health resources. We've added this many, riding shower trailers, and we're extending leave and stuff like that. There's things the governor could have done that, from a messaging point, he wouldn't take the bullet for a botched mission, and could have also maybe made himself look like an awesome commander in chief that's listening, but he didn't take that opportunity.
I don't think that he has to. Like, one of the things that is I feel like one of the important parts of forming a union is, yes, you get yourself heard, you get power in collectivism, but also like it shows like, hey, there's people down here, like we're normal people, and you can't treat us like we're not people. Like
Yeah.
that's and that's what from that Fullbird, that's what I hear. I hear is those are just like chess pieces that I've thrown. Some of them I don't. Some of them fell over. I don't know. The wind blew them. It's not because of any other reasons,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. It just kind of removes their humanity completely. Which like that's one of the reasons I love this, is because I'm a big advocate for the soldier to be able to look at the government and tell it to go fuck itself when it comes to something like this. Like, I mean, look, you would not be able to unionize to have avoided Afghanistan or avoided Iraq, but like
No. No.
this though, like when it gets really stupid, when like the fuck games turn into being fucked games, that's when something like this happens. I'm glad they have this forward momentum that they can do, because like if they were federalized, there'd be nothing. Those 2,000 guys who are federalized and also twiddling their thumbs and staring off into space, they get no recourse for this because they're federalized.
No, no, and going to the humanizing soldiers, like I've listened to a bunch of recorded calls and meetings with senior leaders. Once that them talking amongst themselves, they don't take this seriously. They reference report. They've referenced my reporting. They referenced Davis's reporting. They referenced other reporters' reporting. That's a weird way to phrase that, but and they phrase it as like us, the press, sniping at them, right? I don't think they understand how many soldiers we're talking to. 70 soldiers coming to me, not me reaching out, is a lot, right?
Yeah,
And
and
I don't,
that's and that's just the ones who are contacting you. For every one that's contacting you, there's probably five who agree.
right, and I don't think they understand. First of all, people on that senior leader call are part of the people that are complaining. That's how I have the recorded phone calls. So and they don't understand that I keep referencing these recorded calls in my reporting, and I'm like, do you not get that the leaders at the table you're talking to are part of the grieving soldiers? This isn't just a bunch of E4s.
Yeah, it's
That's
not a
how
bunch of
I have the calls.
yeah.
The call is coming from inside the house, man. Like, take this serious. So I think maybe building a union could potentially like from their perspective, it's probably like anyone can bitch to the press, and maybe they don't understand like the receipts I need to see to write a story. Like they
Right.
might not get that. They might think like I hear like two soldiers complaining and I write my scandal piece, quote unquote, sniping at them. So maybe that's what they think, right? But maybe the union for them and how it could be potentially beneficial is that is actual action. That is a system they have to fight now. It's not just anyone can blow off. Well, they shouldn't, but from their perspective, anyone can blow off the media. But now you got a union that adds like now they have like potentially have like legal firepower now.
Right. They can, because I mean, yeah, if those National Guardsmen decide to, in essence, strike, or at least a large part of them, what exactly is your recourse? Like, I know that if I go AWOL or whatever on the federal level, I know UCMJ kind of covers that. But what is the recourse here for if there is a strike? If what how do they make it worse, basically,
Yeah.
by fucking these soldiers over more?
Yeah, so Texas law doesn't allow public unions to strike. So there is some like so the union doesn't have the kind of power that people might typically associate with unions, and that's actually the statement the Texas Guard sent out in response. They called the union organizers agitators. Like I felt like I was reading some quote from some factory worker from like the 1910s busting down communist agitators, trying to organize his workers or something like that. And they said the agitators, they're giving these soldiers the impression they can collectively bargain and strike. And like Hunter will say, like, we know we can't do that. Their mission is to just organize and basically triage and make their grievance process a little more organized. Because right now it's calling and texting reporters. Now they can maybe put out some press releases. They can have town halls of their own. They can have meetings as an organization, right? And now they've built a system to where anytime I write a story, I'm going to go to the union to get a statement. I'm not just
Hmm.
scattershotting soldiers. So now they're having this ability, if they're smart with it, they can build kind of a cohesive message. They can build talking points, and that's as a PO, that is a powerful
Yeah.
ability if they wield it correctly.
Yeah, a bunch of guys, smoking at the smoke deck and bitching about the mission is not something that now they can say, look, we have
That smoke pit has a charter now.
right. Yeah, everybody that smoke pit, like afterwards we record it and we do the minutes and
Mhm,
everything. Yeah, so you have so that does give them, it doesn't, it's not the the rah strike that
mhm,
most people would immediately think of, but
mhm.
it does give that power of like, hey, Texas, we can kind of fuck with you back.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can
and
we can
again,
put out a thing and say, here's what's going on, here's the receipts that we have, and we can put it out on a formal, on real letterhead, send it out, have it get picked up by Davis, other military websites who will pick that up, and like, and I feel like the thing is that as much as there is this jingoism about the military, right? And it's waning a lot after Afghanistan, and with the weird rise of nationalism that's going on with the conservatives. The military is not as sexy as it used to be, but that the I really feel like if these grievances that are real, that are known, get out in an official kind of sense, not just somebody a quote in a story or something along those lines. That's where that becomes powerful, because now that's just like, oh shit, the Texas National Guard Union is putting out stuff that's nailing Greg Abbott to the wall. Now Greg Abbott is as slippery as any other
mhm.
you know GOP eel out there, but it does make him have to squirm harder. And I think
Yeah,
that that's as a starting point, moving forward with something like this, that's a good starting point, is to make the people in power have to pay attention to you and say and tell themselves, ask themselves, like, is this a fight I'm willing to have, or can I just can it's not hard to please soldiers, Steve. Like, that. It's
no,
not. You send a gut truck out to the field, twice in a week, and everybody will talk about that AFES gut truck for fucking days afterwards.
yeah,
It's not hard to make
mhm,
soldiers happy, and I just don't feel like their command structure just doesn't understand that. And I don't know if it's because the top areas are just so detached from their actual soldiers, the people that they have on the ground, probably. Um, I remember being friendly with a lot of full birds, and yes, I operate as PAO, so I have a little more access than other people do, but well, other soldiers do. But like, there was back and forth. There were commanders, like, it really felt like most of the command people staff that I worked under understood that, like, you got to keep your E4s happy, like, because they're the ones who do most of the work. Like, if you need a slit trench latrine dug, fucking colonel's not going to do it. The specialist is going to. So
yeah,
you got to make sure that specialist who's digging a trench for me to shit in later is
mhm,
happy in his own regard. Hey, specialist, thanks. Why don't you go take a fucking extra half hour at lunch? You can go smoke and jerk off
mhm,
or whatever the hell it is that you need.
mhm.
Go do whatever vice you need to make you feel better. I'll buy you a six pack later on, maybe. That's all it takes to make a
Yeah,
soldier happy. So like, it is, I cannot stress as much as Steve is stressed. I cannot stress enough also how fucked it is that to get to this point.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I think that the last point to make on it would be someone kind of said in the beginning is I've been talking to guard leaders in other states, and who knows if Governor Abbott ever cares about this, or does his unit ever do anything, or obtain any significant power. That remains to be seen. But the reputation across the rest of the National Guard for General Norris and the Texas Guard is just not, it's not good. Like, talking to other leaders, they see the news, and then they see the Union, they're like, holy crap, how bad do you have to mess up to get your soldiers to unionize? You know,
What did you do?
like what did you do? Like that's the question they're asking. They're looking at this, they're like, maybe they read the media reports, like, you know, things happen, logistics get screwed up, which we all understand. But then they're like, holy crap, they're organizing.
Yeah, like
What did you do?
when I was reading the first stories about it, I was like, yeah, this is pretty fucked up, man. But
Yeah.
nothing new. Like it's fucked up in a National Guard sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then like I went on vacation and it's like, oh, you really fucked up. Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah.
You come back to the whole union being organized all of a sudden. So,
Yeah.
hopefully I can get in contact with Hunter and have him come on too. Um, so so Steve, I think we've covered the union. I also wanted to cover something else while we have this last 20 minutes here. Something you kind of teased with me about the ACFT, the Army Combat Fitness Test. I love the ACFT because it is one like there's a lot of boondoggles that the Army does that does not involve me whatsoever, right? Like the literal combat ship, the F-35, these things that are just like, look at these great and wonderful things, and it doesn't, it does its thing or whatever, and then it falls into the ocean and then it catches on fire and we say, well, that was nice. But the ACFT replacing the APFT, and it was in the process when I was still in a year and a half ago, and I got out. I got out like in November of 2020, and it was October of 2020 that the Army was supposed to start conducting the ACFTs. Not they didn't have to be for record, but they did. They did want to start doing it, and then it's going to be okay. The next year after that, that's when we are going to move directly onto the ACFT. I know that it was a clusterfuck from day one. So where are we now with the ACFT?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Has the cluster been unfucked yet?
Yeah, so I'll start. I'll start off. I'll extend some olive branches to the Army here. So they started trying to make. They started like blueprinting this test 2012, 2013. And a lot of people believe, hey, the APFT, it wasn't a good measure of fitness, and it frankly probably didn't encourage soldiers to have a lot of diversity in their workouts. I mean, I'm sure the 11 Bravos SF guys, they're doing deadlifts and squatting, but maybe not everybody.
Yeah,
So
100% with you on that. Always thought that push-ups, sit-ups, 2 mile run was that doesn't test my combat fitness at
yeah.
all. Nobody does push-ups in a combat zone.
Mhm. So the Army wanted something understandably a little bit more complicated, but the criticism is the pendulum swung and just not only did it swing the other way, it smashed the wall. I mean, this is a 6 event test that requires all this gear. You can't just grade a soldier anymore. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, and let me for background, I ran a lot of APFTs, the old Army physical fitness test. All you need is you need the person that's reading. If you need a person that's grading, you need an officer to oversee the whole thing. I think you need like one other person.
Yeah, you don't really need that all. Yeah,
I know. Well, you can get it. You can get a senior NCO. You can get an NCO or an officer. So like,
wave that.
Yeah, it can't be a bunch of specialists pencil whipping APFTs.
Yeah.
So, but it's simple. You just here you can do push-ups there, you do sit-ups there, and then here's a track. It is a quarter-mile track. Run around it 8 times, and we'll time you. Like it's simple, it's easy, and anybody who has a flat surface ground and a measured track, a measured like running area, can do it.
Yeah.
So it's easy, but it's not effective. And
Yeah.
I saw what they had to do for the ACFT, and it's like if I need one soldier to do an ACFT to go to a class, right? Like, oh, hey Sergeant, I need a PT test done. I'm going to school. They need a PT test within the last 90 days. Like, cool. Let me go get half of the unit because that is what it's going to require to do this.
Yeah, so the Army's in the situation where they're just damned if they do, damned if they don't, because they needed a more complicated fitness test, or at least that's what most people kind of agreed on. And now they got like I talked to one person yesterday who's very involved in this, or at least is like I'm not going to say they're like in the room, but like they're in the room next to the room. And they called it a Frankenstein Um, which I, but then they get to the conversation of like, well, what do you take out? What do you change? There's a lot of cooks in that kitchen. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
everyone kind of likes each workout individually, but it's like together it no one's happy and no one's ever going to be happy. They're making tweaks to it now, and like I said, no one's gonna be happy. It's like you can shave the 2 mile down to 1 mile, not because you want people to run less, just to make the test not so long. Maybe you take out the power yeet because that's weird. Um, I don't know. There's things you could do, and no matter what you do, it's not going to appease people. I reported on some data that was leaked to me from Forcecom a year or two ago. Half the women can't pass this test, and the ones that do are scoring terribly. Something along the lines of 600 it is the max score of soldiers at the time that scored 500 and above. It was over 30,000 men and only 60 women, right? So even women are passing, they're scoring very low, and understandably, because like I'm not a super fit guy, but like 250 pounds for a deadlift is just not hard for me, right?
right.
And there's badass women that are way more fit than me that just can't do that, or if they can, they worked way harder than me to get to
It,
that.
yeah, I just like there's so many like and not just women but men as well who are just
Correct.
they're
Yeah.
just
We're
smaller, they're
just
more
smaller guys. Yeah.
compact. Yeah, and that's like I think of like the 5'1" specialist that I had who I mean, she could haul her gear, she could pick up her stuff, but like, man, that's that what you're asking for is not. It doesn't it doesn't work across the board, and I feel like and that's why like I was like when the ACFT was announced, I was like, cool, good, this is a good idea. Finally, we're getting away from that APFT, which just does not do anything for anyone. And then I saw what was happening and I was like, this is going to not work even more because where are the reservists getting all of this stuff? I don't have a pull up bar at
Yeah.
my reserve center. Or if we did, it was over like concrete and broken glass and shit because, no military reserve center is built in a nice neighborhood. So,
No. Yeah.
so it's all just looking at it, it's like I get it, but and like for the active duty side, sure, but like us part timers cannot do this. Like it's hard enough. It's hard enough to lose a quarter of your drill weekend to do an APFT.
Yeah.
It is going to be even harder to try to organize this and then to also like, hey guys, in your off time remember to go somewhere and do leg ups, I guess, and
Yeah.
find a ball and throw it a bunch in a field. I suppose that'll get you ready for all of this. So I am back to being an APFT truther, but also I believe that like every age group should just have this is the score that you hit and you can just finish at that score. You need
Yeah.
to pass the score, pass whatever the minimum is. Well, I can do more. I don't give a shit. Can you do the
Yeah.
minimum? Cool, fine. Maybe we raise the minimums. Maybe you need to hit like a 70, a 75 in each in each event or whatever. But like the
Well,
the
so with the news I got, well, it'll be when's the show go up?
probably go out on Thursday. I think
Great.
Wednesday or
So
Thursday.
folks can read this on military.com right now. So the Army cannot commit to its April 1st implementation date, and we're like 2.5 weeks out right now, which tells you there's all sorts of problems, and so they're in this terrible situation. They're in between a rock and a hard place, so they can score men and women like equally. So like if I'm just going to get a higher score than a lot of women, right? But that might not be fair. They might actually be kind of more fit relative, and my promotion points will be, very heavily in favored with that stuff. So, or do you have a separate scoring system for females or ages or stuff like that? Well, that sets up another problem because if I get a 400 and a woman gets a 400, people would just be like, oh, well, she got a 400 on the female scale, right? And then she'll be disparaged, and that kind of hurts women's growth that way. Do you do like an MOS system? Do you have a flat score, like what you said? Do you just do here pass fail? But then that doesn't incentivize people to like really get after it, work hard, and be rewarded for it. So the Army is in the situation, they're going to announce something soon. There's going to be a phased implementation. They're going to say this is the date. I maybe April, we'll see. And then, but it's not really going to be for record until October. We saw this in a web page on Army.mil that went live by accident. Um, that said, the test is going live in April, but not for record till October. So I don't know what that means
That
because
I know what that means. It means that you can do the because that's what they were telling us. They're like,
Mhm.
we want you to start doing the APFT or the ACFT, and we're like,
Mhm.
cool. But it's not for record, right? They're like, right, and I say, okay,
But that's how
what the
it's
fuck are
been.
we doing for record? Like,
Yeah, but
what do
that's
you want us to do here?
yeah.
Because it's still like if we really want to do it, we should decouple the PT, whatever, any of that, decouple it completely from promotion point scales and stuff. Like, because that's the problem. Like as you said, it doesn't incentivize people to do more. But like, I personally, like, I could get out there. I could have been getting out there and running my ass off all the time. But like, that's just not the type of person I am,
Mhm.
and I don't want to be hurt because I'm not a person who's just like, no, I must run until I can run at this specific time for 2 hours.
Yeah.
There are other things I want to fucking do. And
Well, and that was part of the reason for the delay, and that was part of the concerns the Army Secretary had during her confirmation hearing. She basically the point was, "Hey, this test is awesome if you're a super strong guy, but like we need people in cyber warfare, and that's a hard market to compete against the civilian market. So, like, are we going to turn down a shit hot cyber guy because he can't deadlift 300 pounds? Like, are we really going to do that? Like, that's the question the Army needs to have right now."
look, I was told by my last CSM that women have an advantage of doing the leg ups because they have more abdominal muscles for giving birth. So I feel like really I'm at the disadvantage here, by whatever bodily whatever anatomy that the CSM had going on. It's really fucked up to hear something like that out of somebody who's just like, I mean, this guy, he's cool. He's respectful. He listens to people. He will stop and listen to me as a dumbass E6 or whatever. Like he'll he seems really cool and down to earth and doesn't seem like an asshole and just wants to get the stuff done. And then you hear just like the dumbest shit coming out of their mouth. You're like, God damn it, man, come
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
don't say stupid stuff because you can't do anything. Like I'm a staff sergeant. I can't just be like in front of the whole formation, be like, actually, CSM, what the fuck, what the fuck
yeah,
are you
man.
talking about?
But I mean, like, it kind of so. I mean, people listening, they know PT tests are huge. It's a big deal. The Army's been working on this for 10 freaking years. We're we're like about 3 weeks from what's supposed to be the implementation date, and they can't even say for sure that's going to happen. And I think that represents the turmoil this test is in right now. There's just a lot of cooks in the kitchen. There's a lot of back and forth. The Army Secretary has yet to sign anything on it. No one knows what's going on. Uh,
Oh man, that's the unofficial motto of the military.
Nobody knows
Nobody
what's.
knows what's going on.
But yeah, no, yeah. Like I said, according to that leaked webpage, we might get it in April, but it looks like there'll be some phase in process. It'll be record in October for active duty, guard, reserve. It'll be for record starting April next 2023.
Did they start doing that ACFT in a box thing where they would like send out a Connex or a Tricon that had everything in it and like all the like it had like you could set up everything, you could have like it had all the pieces, but also it had a place you could do like the leg
Oh,
ups and whatnot.
yeah,
I,
the unfortunately named Beaver Box, which I we won't get into it, but I suggest a rebrand for that. But yeah, it's these Connexes. It's got all the stuff in it. Yeah, you'll see those on different installations and stuff like that. They're actually pretty legit. The gear is actually really good. They got a lot of it from like Rogue initially, but they got the $70 million contract with Soronix, which makes really premier military equipment. I promise this isn't a commercial, but they feel the exercise gear for like football teams and stuff like that. I've worked out with it myself. The Army at least did not cheap out on the kettlebells and bumper plates and stuff like that.
Yeah, like when a military base gets created, gets built somewhere, they create the command headquarters and then they make the gym.
Yeah,
It's always the second thing, and the third thing is the Burger King.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I will always say that the military had, like, even our shitty reserve center had a good gym.
hmm
And had good equipment in it that worked. Like
hmm
none of this, like, oh, half of the shit's broken. Like, no,
yeah.
everything. Now, don't get me wrong. The room that was all in was a disgusting, but the equipment all worked. So that's what really mattered.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you kind of pointed to, and I read a story about this on a while ago. Like getting this gear for the guard and the reserve is such a pain. Units don't have it, and then working it out on your own time is difficult. You can do other exercises. You could do kettlebell swings that helps you do the power yeet or whatever. But you know, your first time doing the exercise or one of your only time doing the actual exercises probably shouldn't be on a test. Like, yes, you can go to a gym, but most gyms you can't chuck 10-pound medicine balls around. They don't have sleds to drag, so it's a very difficult test to train for on your own. Now, mind you, like the minimum standards are I think they're objectively low, and it's for a male. Like I said, we got into it. It's a little different for women, but I think for an average male that's healthy in their 20s that works out at least occasionally should be able to pass the test. But I think the test is probably very difficult, again, especially for women and smaller guys to perform very well and get those high scores that's needed to go to all the cool guy schools and get cool assignments and promoted and stuff like that.
Yeah, get some rank and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what? I passed my PT test, and I didn't pass with 180s. I passed at least with 220s. So
yeah,
I was always happy to be middle of the pack, and
yeah.
never, like, I'm PAO. Nobody expected it, and then I had a PAO captain who scored 300s on a regular basis. So that was she kind
That's just an
of.
overachiever. We don't need to
God
do
damn it, man! Stop it.
that. Yeah, man.
Yeah, she was an officer too. That made it even worse.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we get you on again in the future to talk about some more of your stories. I
Yeah,
definitely
man,
want to.
anytime.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep going, keep up with the unionization.
Mhm.
If there's changes and updates in that, we'll bring you back on to talk about that, and definitely anything else.
Yeah.
I love talking about making sure that the troops are taken care of at the
Yeah, man.
least.
Unionization, ACFT, anything, anytime.
All right, Steve. So, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Stephen Beynon, and just find me on military.com. Any of the Army stories you see there floating around the internet, very high likelihood I wrote them. So check some of that stuff out. People can find my email in those stories, send me feedback, or DM me on Twitter about anything you see going on in the Army or feedback on my stories.
Yeah, I like to. I know that we have a lot of people, who are not necessarily in the military who listen to this show, but there are a lot of people who are in. So, and I try to, if you need reporters to talk to,
Yeah.
Steve is one of them. If you
Yeah.
have legitimate grievances, don't come to Steve because fucking your captain made you cry or something. All
Yeah.
of us,
Well,
all of us have
I
had
don't
a
know.
captain that made us cry.
Well,
But
and I will say, like PSA, like people complain about the Army and why don't leaders know X, and the border's the perfect example. Is people need to know these issues exist for them to get fixed and for the right people to see them. Uh, this isn't for me to pump myself up. Go with your reporter of choice to bring your grievances to, but the press is a solid avenue to bring your grievances. Someone to look at the issue, raise it the appropriate way, and myself and most reporters, if you want to be granted anonymity because you're afraid of retaliation, that can always be negotiated. So your identity is kept secret, and you're protected.
yeah, and also I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm happy to act as an intermediary. I don't, I've been saying this. I've been on this podcast for 6 years. I have said enough things to let you know that I'm no friend of the United States Army. But if you want somebody to talk to and you don't want to talk directly to a reporter, I'm always out there. So let me know. Steve, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, we'll bring you on sometime in the future to talk about more stuff. Fantastic reporting. Really appreciate you going in on this and getting the story and keeping up with it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.